Good evening. Today is Tuesday, July 26, 2022 at the Fonseca Elementary School, the community room. And this is the Facilities and Operations Subcommittee. Could I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Hart?
Here.
Ms. Larrabee? Here. Ms. Pereira? Here.
Salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person making any video or audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made whether perceived or unperceived by those present and are deemed acknowledged and permissible. No citizens input tonight? Okay, so we're here for a few items. The first one we'll deal with is the 3.03, discussion and vote to refer for camera installation. Mr. Cabral.
Good evening, everyone. Morton Middle School had a new system put in when it was built. It's a proprietary system. Mr. Carrera's in the audience. Since we put that system in, there have been nothing but problems, and only one vendor in the state of Massachusetts can service that system. We're at the point now where the system is out of life. It has what's called on there an archiving system. We can no longer get parts and or hard drives for it. Anytime a camera goes down, we could be out of a camera in that building anywhere from 7 to 21 days because there's one person that can work on that system from the company. So this company came in, they installed this system, they're the only ones that can service it, but the sister company that built this system no longer exists. So what we have before you is a proposal to bring the cameras up into year 2022 and beyond, cloud-based cameras just like we have at our other buildings, but at the same time upgrade the card access and the door access in the whole facility to the new system Vercada, which we're using and we're slowly starting to add to all the buildings. By doing this, there'll be one card, so Mimi, you would have one card, you could get into any building, and we could also turn off, we could turn on different schedules, so if there was a basketball thing and you're a coach, you would have access to that building after hours. This just brings us into year 2022 and beyond. Right now, this proposal that's in front of you to go to full committee is only replacing camera for camera in the building currently, and it's going to replace card reader for card reader. If we decide to add any cameras in the future, it would be something that we would do internally, but this is a giant lift. There's over 70 cameras in that building. Roughly 18 of them are powered and run by fiber optic cable to the outside of the building. So this is something that we would subcontract out, and depending the vote at the full committee, the company has told us that they would be able to get us upgraded and retrofitted for the opening of school this year.
Are there any questions?
Yes.
Ms. Larry?
Thank you. Yeah, a couple questions. Is Morton the only school that needs this upgrade?
No. So we have a number of schools. Morton right now, in terms of dire need, is that one, because middle school, you know, there's more that happens in the middle schools than there are the elementary schools. That would be the first one we look at, and then we'll be coming back piece by piece over the course of this school year to try to upgrade some of those other buildings. I can say Cuss is in better shape. Cuss will be coming to you to just replace card access, and then internally we can add more cameras because once the cameras are in, they're a cloud-based system, it's open architecture, our team can then install the cameras.
Right. I'm glad you mentioned Cuss because that's what I'm kind of referring to. I know we had an incident last year where we needed to look at the cameras and we were unable to get anything off them because it was that cloudy, let's say. So this is something we're prepared to move forward with, updating.
Yes, but and we're doing it kind of slowly because to have those many major projects going at the same time, you have to technically take the system down in order to replace it. So if we were to do this in multiple buildings at the same time, we'd have no eyes on the buildings. So we're picking one project, starting from A to Z, make sure all our I's are dotted, T's are crossed, the system will be running, and then we'll come back to the committee, the subcommittee, and the full committee to start doing more buildings. In speaking with Mr. Pacheco, we'd like to try to get most of the buildings done this fiscal year.
Right. My next question is, are all the cameras where you need the cameras, are they able to move positions or are they staying where they?
So Back 10 years ago, they had PTZ cameras where you could zoom in, you could zoom out. Now what happens is they're fixed focal length cameras, so you do everything behind the scenes on the cloud. These new cameras, you can zoom in and you can see a license plate if need be. Some of our older cameras, even though they're fixed focal length, once you zoom in to a certain point, they're not clear. They've kind of gone industry standard 4K resolution, so a lot of the stuff is high def now. Just in the last 4 or 5 years, from the Meraki cameras that we're using to this new company, Verkada, the difference in quality is night and day.
Now, do we have Verkada in other schools
So
presently?
we demoed 5 of those cameras with some of our card access system in Laterno, and then also you guys just voted to approve full committee the administration building because there was no coverage there. The piece that I like about the Verkada system is the open architecture leaves us to endless possibilities. We could have a member of the team literally do facial recognition to that point. So if we were looking for a perpetrator in the building, or if the sergeant came to us and said we were looking for a student, if we had an idea on the student's picture from our student information system, we could find that student in the building. So it opens us up to the world of possibilities. Meraki really hasn't. So that's why we're gonna give this a go at Morton.
Now, as far as the police station, how are they able to access it? Is it at the police station or is it?
It's all cloud-based. So what
It's
we're
all
trying to
cloud-based.
do is we're going cloud-based, and that's not something that would be an administration discussion. Some of our SROs do have access inside the buildings. They don't have it outside the building, but as we move forward, that would be a discussion that we have with the sergeant and with the superintendent as to how we want to set up those views.
I mean, we've had a very good relationship with, the sergeant and with our SROs, so we work together. If there's something that needs they have to get information from the camera, then we figure out how to get access. I think that Ms. Larrabee was, and I'm pretty sure Ms. Pereira also had spoken to me earlier. One of the things that we need to do is add cameras to the outside, right? If you recall some of that issue.
So
that
Morton will be covered because when we built Morton had cameras on the outside poles. Cuss, however, did not. Cuss is a different animal because we actually have to have a fiber optic contractor come in. We may have to do some digging to get to some of those poles. So we have a contractor lined up to do a site survey. As soon as they do that site survey, we're going to take care of that right out of our regular operating budget and get the infrastructure piece done. That way we can come back to you guys in future months and say, okay, here's our plan. This is what we need for cameras to cover those locations.
And that was my next question was, do all our schools have cameras on the outside, on the perimeter of the schools?
Most do. However, there's probably
I don't
4.
really need to get into which ones don't.
There's probably 4 buildings that are still using analog cameras that we have to replace.
And that's something moving forward.
Correct.
where
We are
we're gonna
changing
focus.
all out. Yep.
I yield, thank you.
So luckily, Mimi asked most of the questions I was going to ask, but just to clarify, the new system you're putting in Morton is going to allow you in the future, if we want, for you guys to install our own cameras so we can put them wherever we choose.
Correct.
Correct?
Correct.
Okay. And we are making sure that this is important, very important to me, right, the safety of our kids, and I want to make it easier for police officers to be able to do their job. So going forward, the goal then is to make sure that we have a sufficient amount of cameras outside, so if we have somebody come into a parking lot, do something wrong and leave, we get a license plate so the police officers can follow up with that in a better fashion.
And Scott, now I think Morton's kind of unique a little bit where with most schools, the parking lot's right there. So the parking lot's on Hood Street for Morton. How are we using, are we going to take it, or is there already cameras there?
There are cameras there,
Okay.
so Morton, the thing that there was a cost saving, we're going to reuse all of the existing cabling. The cabling is not something that will change over time. It's still the standard cabling. We'll just be changing out the unit, and then it'll be cloud-based. We won't be using that archaic archiving system where if they called and they needed video and they've called before major crimes, we can't help them because the video is just not there.
And it's going to be an upgrade
Oh, it's
for the parking lot as well?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
How long is the video saved? Is it just forever?
No,
Because
so
it's in the cloud,
it
or-
depends on internally how we decide to set them up. At the high school right now, they're set up for 43 days,
Okay.
just because we do it at such a high quality.
Yep.
But I could manipulate quality levels to still see plates, and we could go up as far as 60 days.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Yeah, just one once we send to, we refer, how long start to finish? Do you estimate?
I've already had conversations with E&E. They've been excellent with us. They've done some of our other projects. Once it's the will of the full committee and we get the approval, I can call the next day. We'll get the paperwork and contract started on our end, but they'll start to order product.
Thank you, Scott.
Any motion on the table?
Motion to refer to full committee?
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Star.
Yes.
Star.
Yes.
Star. Yes.
Item 3.02, discussion and vote to refer the SRO Memorandum of Understanding Agreement. Good evening.
Good
How are you,
evening.
sir?
Thank you for having me.
Sure.
So the School Resource Officer Memorandum of Understanding 2022, it's been updated recently after the Police Reform Bill. There was an MOU commission that was created to develop a model MOU used across the state. So what I've done is I've taken that model MOU and I've tailored it to the Fall River Public School System. So that's the document that you have in front of you now. It pretty much spells out what the expectations of an SRO is, how one is selected, the training, the certification, and that we're a resource for the schools. And it's all spelled out there. So that's, if you have any questions about it, I'd be glad to answer
Yeah.
those for you.
Sorry. Yes, thank you for being here. We got the 2021 one in our docs, and going through that, what in here is different from the 21? I just don't have time to read this.
Right. I think it goes more in depth as to what the expectations of SRO is. It really goes into that they're not to be used as a disciplinarian in the schools. The selection, some of the information sharing is spelled out in the MOU, and that the chief at the end of the day has the ultimate discretion as to who the SRO is. But it really goes into expectations and the role of an SRO in the school system.
And you're on board with everything in the MOU?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's much more specific, and I will say Sergeant Galveo and I had a discussion about this, and I actually took the MOU that he produced for us, and I went through the DESI model MOU word for word to compare, and he followed exactly the same process. All he did was customize it to follow public schools and added that information. I think that this one is a little more general, and this one the new one spells everything out, the duties of the SRO, what lies in the police department, what lies in our responsibility, and how we communicate with one another, how we share information, who we share information with, etc. So it's a very good document because it's very specific.
Can we get this one over to the other committee members before the meeting?
It's already posted.
Oh,
on
it
Board
is?
Docs.
Okay,
I'll
great.
put it up on Board Docs.
Okay, great, thanks.
But we can get a hard copy to them also, yes.
Any other questions? Motion?
Motion
Motion to
to refer?
refer? Second.
Second. Roll call?
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Ms. Larrabee?
Yes.
Ms. Ferraro?
Yes.
The next item on the agenda is 3.01.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Thank you for your
The
service.
traffic concerns at the Laterno Elementary School.
Oh, Sergeant Galveo, you can actually stay right here because
Okay.
we'll turn over.
That's
No,
right, you
so
were here
quick.
last time. How you doing?
Good evening.
Go right ahead.
So we, as following up from last time, our next steps are to have a meeting at the Laterno Elementary School to welcome the public, our neighbors, and representatives of our school community to discuss the proposal of making Anthony Street a one-way. So we want to have some input on, there's different possibilities, different options, one being going from Stafford one way all the way to the boulevard, or going one way and stopping at either Lamp 4 or Carl Street, which are two crossroads. So we want to have an opportunity for the public to come in person. We have some aerial footage that we shot with a drone. So this is a way for the public to be able to see also sort of the traffic patterns. I actually emailed the footage to you as well, so you could take a look at it. So goal is to build consensus from the community on August 10th at the school, and then followed up with a meeting at the traffic board.
Okay. So you got the notice out to the parents?
We're gonna send it, the notice out, ASAP out to the community.
The letter that
Yeah.
we just
Letter,
received.
yeah, so I've been emailing the school community consistently about the process. We've gained a lot of, I think, interest and support for this, including residents on Anthony Street. I can't speak for all of them, but I know parents of students that also live on Anthony Street are excited about the capacity of just making things safer and then just move more effectively for everyone, both the residents and the people that are coming in for drop-off.
And so they haven't been contacted yet, formally?
We haven't sent a letter yet, no.
Okay.
No. So
Okay.
that's next step, and that's gonna be for August 10th at 6 p.m. and we're encouraging everyone to come to have input on, making this decision.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah,
Mrs.
well,
Larrabee?
outside of the letter being sent, will there be any robocalls or maybe notices on their doors? I
Yeah.
mean, some people don't use email, there may be some elderly, I mean.
Absolutely. So, we're going to leverage our new Parent Square system to make sure that everyone in the community, and then I can work with Ken to talk about what are some other ways to communicate, maybe outside of phone.
Right, I think I'm specifically talking about the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Not so much our students.
Yep.
More the, they're not on anything, so how are we
Yeah.
gonna reach out to them?
Yep.
Is my question.
Absolutely. That's something we can work with. Yeah.
Both mail, you can say it, both via snail mail and also leaflets. So we'll be dropping off to every resident on Anthony Street, top to bottom,
Okay.
and then we will also do the letter, the
And-
formal letter.
More than ample time before the 10th, correct?
It'll be out before the end of this week.
Perfect. I yield, thank you.
Ms. Brown?
So when I'm reading the letter that was in board docs, it looked like you were saying the change you wanted to make was just leaving the parking lot to go right on Anthony, but then you
Yeah.
just said talking about the whole street being a one-way, so if you could just clarify that?
Yeah, so I think originally, and we were thinking going right turn only on Anthony to Stafford. However, after seeing the aerial footage, we feel that proposing to go left one way towards the boulevard would actually be more effective for the flow of traffic, just because there's just more space from the school to the boulevard versus the school to Stafford. We don't want to cause more traffic issues by making, one decision, I guess.
So who's going to be responsible for making sure that this is being followed? Because obviously it's going to be a big change. And you can put up signs all you want. Sometimes people are just creatures of habit. And you can put up a one-way sign, a do not enter sign. Sometimes they just... So who's going to be responsible for making sure we don't have people going the wrong way down a one-way?
Yeah, I think,
More dangerous.
one of the things that we want to propose and see what the neighborhood feels is making it an all-the-time
All the time,
situation.
yeah.
Because of that reason.
Sure.
It's actually a little bit challenging to, is it 9 and 10, 8?
No, I agree with you.
So that is a proposal that we want to try to make. If that's something that we feel like the community is supportive of, we'd make that the case. Another option could be 2 ways on weekends, holidays. I mean, many large cities have that as an option as well. We don't want to make it so complex that
Right.
people can't drive their car down the road, obviously. So, but I think, considering one way all the time, maybe not the whole length, but maybe a section of
Yeah.
it to the crossroad of either Lamb Court or Carl
Yeah.
Street. So then you just know you can get it in your routine. You're not going to violate any.
I tend to agree with you. I think having it for 1 hour a day could be really challenging
Yeah.
for people to remember what it is and what have you.
Yeah.
So I would support that 100%. I think the community wants safety for our children.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think too, you're probably on the right track with turning in from Stafford.
Yeah.
Because I think because most of the, my guess is anyway, most of the residents that are going to LeTourneau are off Stafford, up from a little bit of Stafford,
Yeah.
down towards Stafford.
That's right.
So for them to circle all the way up to the,
Yeah. Boulevard.
yeah, I keep forgetting the names of the streets there. So I think that's probably, my guess is if the neighbors are good with with this project, they're going to be in favor of coming in from Stafford.
That's right.
That's my hunch. Go ahead.
Scott, back to the meeting, the neighborhood meeting, is that gonna be run by you two? Is it gonna be Mr. Pacheco?
I'll be with them, yeah.
So, okay.
At the
Well,
school.
And also it'll be 6 o'clock.
At the school?
Yeah.
At the
At the
school.
school.
The community. And Laura Ferrera said she'd also be there.
Yeah, I'll probably show, yeah.
Traffic.
Great.
All
And if I
right.
can just comment on it.
Sure.
Whatever process we come up with, whatever route, we'll be in full support. We'll be there the first 2 weeks of school to make sure that people are following the rules. So you know how it works. It takes a while to get it under their belt to know, okay, this is the traffic pattern, and the police are here to ensure that it's being followed. So we'll be there to support whatever traffic pattern we come up with.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Next up is the discussion and vote to refer the reorganization of the Facilities and Operations Department. Mr. Pacheco.
Thank you. If I could just go back with just one thing that I should have mentioned earlier on the last item. This is not the first time we've looked at traffic patterns after the fact. So we did it at Viveris. We made Lewis Street a one-way, and it took quite a few years since that school opened, 2008, just like this one, to make those adjustments. We didn't make that adjustment too long ago. So when that school closed, it's been built since 2008, but before it closed, it was a tiny, that building was a small, 1 unit or 2 unit school, and the traffic was nothing compared to what we have now. So you've tripled the size of the school, put it in the same exact spot in the same neighborhood, and we cross our fingers and hope everything works. And unfortunately, it didn't. The pandemic allowed people to forget about how bad the traffic was, and then when we came back to school, we started getting, that rumbling again. So I think the meeting will be very well attended, and we hope that we can find something that will help. This school, unlike others, that Anthony Street has a lot of outlets, so you got 3 or 4 outlets, so you never have to go all the way down to the avenue if you don't want to. You just turn around, go back up, and go up the next street, and you're back on Stafford Road where you may want to be. So I think that it'll be the best way. Dumping out into Stafford Road is a very difficult thing to do. It only makes the situation worse. It doesn't really help.
Right, make Stafford Road.
Right. So.
Yeah.
I would also, just now that I'm thinking about it, recommend as well inviting the Maplewood neighborhood meeting,
Sure.
group to that meeting.
We can do that.
I think that's Mr.
It was.
Yes, Mr. Gaudet and Mr. Savigny, I believe. That they would absolutely want to be at that meeting. But also too, Kenny, now we just talked more about the traffic. I know it's not on the agenda, but are we doing anything leading up to the opening of Durfee where we had that, huh? Oh, okay, I'll bring it up at the new business, that's fine. Okay, go ahead, Ken.
So what you have before you is a preliminary look at what we feel would be a good reorg of the Facilities and Operations group. There's a few extra pieces here that are not currently within us in the group right now. What's underneath this main heading, those were all here, but they were stuffed into other piles. So what we're trying to do is make these individual groups manageable or focused for the individual directors. Under the current system, one director is doing yeoman's work with a ton of different departments and trying to manage those departments as if only one happened at a time, and that's not realistic. They all happen at the same time. All the issues happen at the same time, and that person's trying to deal with that. So this breaks it up into more manageable groups, and individually, as you can see, we broke this down so you could take a look at the individual groups in no particular order. So the maintenance group is just maintenance now, so it doesn't include the buildings and grounds. The buildings and grounds will be held separate. And the reason for that is that that building and grounds group is going to have a little bit more work than they currently have with the artificial surface. We've got a $10 million investment in the next year or so with all of our groups, and that the fields are going to be a major undertaking to take care of, the artificial turf fields. They require regular maintenance every so many hundred hours, and then the daily stuff. And also, putting that under maintenance just puts a tax on the current director. So what we did here was, as you see, there are no names attached to anything, and it's easier for us to discuss role as opposed to person. That'll come later. But the maintenance group itself now is strictly maintenance, and that's their focus. So it'll be these employees under a director, and focusing strictly on building maintenance. The next one is the Director of Custodial Services. So again, the Custodial Services encompasses quite a few employees, but it also has some other pieces to it that we don't necessarily think it had to be under this director and under the current system we have. So this would strictly be custodial services, nothing more than custodial services. It would, however, have a lower level administrator taking care of most of our compliance, asbestos compliance, and all of that goes along with that, all of the reporting, maintaining all of the booklets in the schools. It'll also do the pest control, where that is all being done right now under one person. This particular piece will allow that compliance person to know that all of these filings have to be done so many times a year, and take care of things like that. And anything else that comes up in compliance as part of the building part of this whole reorg. The Director of Transportation. So currently we have a coordinator of transportation and 2 people that work into that department. I'm not quite sure that that department is robust enough to handle the amount of apparatus that we have every day on the roads and the amount of work it takes to put those schedules together. And we've got more students riding buses than we ever have lately, as of the last couple of years. So that department, again, would stand as alone as it does now, but that leader of that department, so to speak, would end up in the director's role in managing both the software and the personnel that lie under that particular heading. The school resources, self-explanatory. Sergeant Galveo and all of his officers would be there. We have the Director of Nutritional Services. So currently, Director of Nutritional Services is outsourced, and it'll remain that way. But just for the sake of organization, I wanted you to see how that looks. So you got a director, which is the vendor. We have an administrative assistant, which is supplied by the vendor. And then everyone below that, 2 supervisors are FRPS employees, and then the rest of the management. As you can see, the numbers, we're creeping in the 150, 175 range for employees in that one division. This division is not going to change at all. This is staying as it is under the same operational heading. We have Director of Campus Services. So this one here is a newbie. So this one here is grounds and grounds maintenance. Currently, we're taking care of 3 artificial surfaces, 2 at Durfee and 1 at Cuss. We will have 5 at Durfee and 1 at Cuss. So we're kind of doubling what we have for artificial surface. So basically, if you look at the organizational drop from that particular department, it looks a little different than the others, and basically breaking it up into 2 groups. One would be artificial turf and grass and field maintenance, and then the other one would be landscape and grounds maintenance. The ultimate goal is to take care of all the schools with this department so that I can keep the custodians in the buildings doing custodial work. Currently in the summer, They spend quite a bit of time outside, cutting grass, trimming, doing whatever they do. In some buildings, it's a huge endeavor, but the groundskeeper currently help them out with some of that. Ultimately, I'd like to see it all go to this one group, and they would be doing this work summer and winter. Custodians would still have snow removal on their plate, but this would be a helping hand also on the winter time, where they could bring in snow blowers, help the bigger schools who need help, or anybody who's struggling to clean up an area. It would fall under this. So this is brand new. We currently have 3 employees, and there'll be some employees added. And Director of Security and Safety. So under Director of Security and Safety, you would have 2 leads, which they currently do, 2 senior officers, and currently 23. This 23 does not include the 12 that were just added with the budget. So that's not reflective of that. And then the last piece on the chart is the Durfee Facility Manager. So this is a standalone position. It's the person who operates all of the systems, all of the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems at Durfee, and takes care of all the warranties that we have with the new building. That position currently, I think, will stay as it is for the next couple of years until we know that we've got Durfee where we want it, and then that may morph into a person that we can kind of lean on for other buildings if they have mechanical issues that we can do remotely and would be under that control. So again, preliminary look at the overall F&O. We're going to be looking for positions which we'll put together in another package. My ask tonight, if you have questions, I'm gladly answer them. My ask tonight would be not to refer it, to table it here, to allow me to bring back job descriptions that go along with everything here, to allow me to take a look at what the growth potential is and what our liability financially is going to be in order to make this work. We'll work those numbers and hopefully have another facilities meeting before the September meeting, if we can, and I have all of that ready and prepared, and then look at that point for a referral if we're all comfortable
You
with it.
think that's enough time, Ken, before September?
I'm going to try, but if it isn't,
Yeah.
we won't do it. I will let everyone, if we're not ready, we're not
Yeah,
going to
we
bring it.
want it done
Right,
right the first
exactly.
time, obviously.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. Motion, do you have a question?
Yeah, I do.
Go for it.
So what you're looking to do is 3 job descriptions, right? So Director of Custodial.
I'm going to
Director-
redo them all,
You're going to redo them all.
except for ones that are not changing at all. So for instance, you're right. So the maintenance one won't change. Actually, it will because it covers
will.
grounds right now.
Correct.
So that one will change. There is no job description on the transportation because it's not a director, it's a coordinator. So that'll be a new job description also.
Okay.
Custodial Services, we already have a job description for the assistant, but again, it encompasses some of the other work that was happening. So
Okay.
we've got to look at them all
All right.
and take a look at any one that changed so that we give you an accurate
Okay.
description.
You currently have people doing multiple jobs.
Right.
And we need to make sure we
Mhm.
separate it, because the department's grown so much, we've added people, and we need to make sure that we have each part of the department overseen by someone, and so that we can put efficiencies in place across the department, right? So although it's impossible for one person to oversee every single piece of this department effectively with it growing. It's just like Scott bringing to the table, okay, the tech department grew so much, we
Right.
need to make sure we put the right systems in place. We are trying to put the right systems in place to make the department run efficient.
So I think this is a good start. This is a great start. So I vote not to refer.
Motion to table?
Thank you.
No, we won't
Yeah,
have
we
to make
just
any vote,
motion
we'll
to
just,
table.
that's it. We don't have to make a motion to table, do we? No, it's just a discussion.
No, it was a discussion on vote.
Yeah, I think it was discussion.
Oh, great,
Yeah,
okay, so we have
Motion to
motion
table.
table. Second,
Yeah.
Second.
roll call?
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Ms. Larrabee?
Yes.
Mr. Ferraro?
Yes.
For new business, Ken, I just wanted to talk to you real briefly about the leading up to the opening day of
Yes.
Durfee. Last year was surprisingly hectic, chaotic. Are we doing anything, tweaking anything this year, the beginning of the year, that we didn't do last year?
Sure. So we've met with the city officials as far as trying to work on the traffic pattern and lighting, the light control light at President Avenue. We're looking to make a couple of turning lanes permanent. So currently that was done by details from the police department, and it worked very well. It kept the traffic moving. We went from 45 minutes late to right on time, and traffic cleared up by 10 after 8 completely, without adding any roads or anything else that we could. This year we will be ready to open up all of the arteries that disperse traffic the opposite direction away from Ellsbury Street. So they're going to be able to drive back up by Spencer Board and get onto Ray Street. Wiedemo Street will now be active. So they're going to be able to leave the parking lot in the back of the building and drive up that way. We're going to set up traffic patterns within the current patterns to force people away from Ellsbury once they get on our property. So that Ellsbury will strictly be the big parking lot on the end, about 350, 400 cars. The buses, which we want them to be able to get to President Avenue through Ellsbury. And then most of the parents who are picking up will come through the property if they so choose near the field house. But when they get to the end of that, they'll be shot up the hill and go out on Ray Street, Chestnut Street, Wiedemo, and get themselves away from the building. So we're expecting that 35% of the parents who drop off are going to find that this is a better method than what they were doing. If they so choose to go into the end parking lot, that's going to be a much slower way. And they'll see that as they evolved all year long and found better ways to drop off their family, they made it on their own. We didn't need to direct them. We're going to have a lot more options for them this year that we didn't have last year. If the lights are corrected, then we won't need the detail on our side, which will be good because it'll be a cost-saving measure for us, and the amount of money that the city needs to put towards the traffic is very, very minuscule. It's painting the traffic and a possible $3,000 engineering fee to put in the new controls on those lights. So when you get to that light, you'll have two options on both sides. You'll go straight, or you'll have a double turning lane, and that'll be all day long, which will alleviate. Currently, when you're coming from the Rotary heading up, you got two lanes that squeeze into one. That won't be there. You'll have one lane now to go straight, and the other two will always turn towards BCC. And we'll put some signage up there also saying possibly BCC and Bishop Conley traffic use the right lane. Durfee use the left lane, because that'll get them all the way down, and those two traffic patterns won't be mixing. So that will be give us a much better start for this school year than last year.
Yeah, I mean, like last year was, I don't know if we were ready for it or expecting that kind of surge, but it's definitely one of the worst areas traffic-wise in the morning. As long as when we made the right adjustments, and we did get them out, the place was cleared by like 8:30.
Right.
As long as it's because it's going to be busy from 6:45 to 8:30 or 8:15, whatever it is. But as long as it's clear by then, I think that's the public can deal with that.
Yeah, and this will I think it would alleviate quite a bit of traffic off of Ellsbury completely, because when the old school, that traffic didn't exist on Ellsbury,
Right.
because of the West Main entrance. So we're technically giving the West Main entrance back as far as students being able to get elsewhere. They were kind of locked into that narrow path that we had given them, and quite a few students took advantage of that. But now students who are driving know that they can get up to that other parking lot. We're also adding about 150 parking spaces to the two roads, the ring roads that we have on the property that we currently don't have. So that's more options, whether it's teachers or whether it's students who use that parking lot. Either way, it's going to help us with the congestion. So.
Thanks, Kenny. Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion.
motion to adjourn.
No, it's what you look.
Just thought you were
No,
making,
You can't.
Roll call.
killing the bugs.
Yes.
Larry. Larry.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you.